Hi guys, I just wanted to talk to you guys a bit about audition anxiety. So some of us experience anxiety like little tiny butterflies when we're auditioning, and others of us have these monster horrible anxiety attacks almost when we're auditioning. I'm going to be talking to mostly those who have the big monster anxiety, because little monster anxiety is, I think, very normal, and usually it doesn't really affect our performances. But the big monster anxiety, I'm talking like you're sweating, shaking, want to throw up, can't really focus on anything, throat is closing kind of anxiety, like borderline panic attack. The difference being you don't actually think you're dying. But it almost feels like a panic attack. Those are tricky to deal with in auditions. And it's something definitely that I'm still working out. See, for me with acting auditions, I think I said in a previous video, I don't really get nervous, and that's not always true. But I find it a lot easier to act through. One of my friends who acts suggested using it. You know, that it gives you extra energy toward whatever you're performing. And I think to a certain extent that's true. Even if you don't have quite the same ability to focus because your body is telling you to run, that, you know, that is what when you're feeling the super monster anxious, want to throw up, palm sweaty, heart beating, ba-boom, ba-boom, it's terrible kind of anxiety. It's your fight or flight response kicking in, which is your body, even though, you know, you're just going to audition and everyone's probably perfectly nice, and worst comes to worst, you don't get the part or a callback or whatever, your body is responding like, I think I said goblins in the last video, but that there's real danger happening. Like something bad is going to happen to you if you stay here. Which is not the response you want when you're auditioning, but sometimes it happens, especially for those of us that tend to kind of have anxiety issues. It also tends to come out more when you're auditioning. I have social anxiety issues on occasion, and this anxiety tends to come out in auditions because social anxiety is a fear of being judged, and I'm putting myself in a position of being judged. So it's whenever I go to an audition, it's facing a big fear of mine. Even if it's a silly fear, it's a fear. So that's why my body kind of goes into freak out mode, because it's like, what the hell is happening? Why do I have to be here? What is blah, blah, blah. Even if your brain is saying, calm down, you know, these people are wonderfully nice. You know, your life is going to be okay, even if you mess up this audition or even if you don't get this part. You know, there's no danger, but your body responds like there is, and that's very frustrating. So yeah, for acting, I usually find I am able to use it, and it doesn't usually affect my acting so much. Singing can be another story, because if my throat closes up because I'm nervous, I can still talk and stuff like that. But when I'm singing, it affects my breathing, and it affects my ability to keep my throat open, because, you know, when you have anxiety, sometimes it feels like somebody's going like this while you're trying to sing. And it's A, very distracting, and B, you're not going to necessarily sound like you would if you were relaxed or even just normal nervous. You know, most of the time our voices, if we just have a little bit of butterflies, aren't really affected by nerves, but this changes if you're borderline panic attack anxiety at auditions. And this is really tricky and frustrating to deal with. Like for me, my vibrato sometimes gets fast, and other times it's just I'm not remembering to breathe. Or sometimes it affects my acting because I'm so focused on trying, like, what's going on with my voice, calm down, which takes you out of the moment when you're trying to sing and tell a story. So it's tricky to deal with. Here are some things to help. breathing exercises sometimes help. There's an exercise that I believe it's breathe in for 4, hold for 7, and breathe out for 8, and repeating that and repeating that and repeating that. And I find that does usually help, but once you're kind of called into the audition room, you can't keep doing that. I usually find that I go back to anxiety breathing, and it's not my best. That's something I'm still working on. But sometimes that can help, and that can calm you down a bit. Reminding yourself that these guys are not gonna bite you, that they want you to do well, that they want you to succeed. Not focusing on the outcome, not focusing on, am I gonna get this role? Or not even, am I gonna get this role? Am I gonna do well in this audition? Because that's something I tend to focus on, not even so much the outcome. Is like I told myself before my last audition, I'm not allowed to say I'm sorry because I have a horrible habit of apologizing when things are not going the way I want them to vocally. And I'm not gonna show it in my face because that's another habit, because everything I feel shows on my face. So when I'm auditioning, if my anxiety is getting to my voice, then I sometimes make a face like, ooh, this is bad. And I told myself I wasn't gonna do that, and I succeeded in that. So I'm very proud of myself. Sometimes for certain people, if you have bad anxiety in auditions, you can talk to your doctor and see if there's a medication available that might help you. It's really only a Band-Aid, you know, for these situations, but sometimes it's a helpful Band-Aid, you know, especially if you're in the process of working on learning to audition and being comfortable with auditions and getting your anxiety down in auditions. It might kind of relax you, especially if you're kind of one of those people like me who have very, very physical symptoms that affect your performance, like my voice shakes or your hands shake. It can be helpful, and it might be right for you. But the biggest thing I want to say of all is if you have a bad audition because you're nervous or for whatever reason, just be self-compassionate. Do your best to not beat yourself up about it. I've definitely been guilty of that. You know, not say, oh, I should have said this, I should have done that. You know, you can, you know, think about, oh, I wish I'd done this, I wish I'd done that, and try to make sure that you do those things in your next audition, like me with the, you know, not apologizing and not showing anything I'm not happy with in my face. You know, that was my note from my last audition, and that's what I took to this audition, and that is a success that I made. So if there's anything that you do that you think undermines your audition or makes it not as good, just take note in that audition that you didn't feel as good about and try to use it for your next audition. And even if you don't do wonderful in your next audition, just be proud if you make it and you're able to not do the things you did wrong in the previous audition, if that makes any sense. Just be proud of yourself. It does take a lot of guts to go and put yourself out there, and you should be proud of yourself just for doing that, because a lot of people couldn't. Just be self-compassionate and love yourself. So just go in there and do the best you can at that given moment. It may not be the best that you can do, period, or even the best you can do usually, but it might be the best you can do on that day at that time. And just be proud of yourself for doing it at all, because you rock. Okay guys, take care, and any more vlog topics you'd like me to talk about, please post below. And Sadie would like to say hi because she is a naughty girl and ripped up my music books earlier. Yay! And that explains our day.